Welcome y'all. I have a bushel of these glorious peaches that I need to get preserved, and I'm going to do it 3 ways, maybe 4, and use 0 sugar. First, we're going to get everything washed, and I'll show you one of the easiest ways to get the peeling off. My name's Loanna, and this is a little bit of homestead. Let's get these preserved.
I just went ahead and put some cool water into the sink, and I am just going to gently scrub them. I have a little loofah here. You can use your hand or any kind of like soft sponge. You don't need to do anything too hard. We're just going to brush off some of the peach fuzz. Peaches have a little fuzz coating on them, and I like to go ahead and get it off, because if you don't, it comes off when you're doing the next step, and I don't like the fuzz in my water. You can see here, it's quite a bit of fuzz. And then I just rinse them off, and we'll get started on the next step.
Today I'm definitely going to preserve these 3 ways. I'm going to freeze some in a light honey sauce, honey syrup, and I'm going to can some, not a lot, and I'm going to can them in a Mennonite way. We'll talk about that later. And I do want to make a peach salsa, and if I have enough, I'm going to do some peach preserves. Now I'm going to show you an easy way to get these peelings off so you don't have to stand and peel and peel and peel.
So what you're going to need is a bowl of cool water, or you can use your sink, and you're going to need a pot of hot water. And then I like to just put a little crisscross on the bottom side of the peaches. It's not necessary, but you'll see it helps the peeling just slide right off. And then we're going to put them in the really hot water. Just get it to just before it's a simmer, nothing raging, boiling, just a good simmer. And you're going to leave that in there anywhere from like 1 to 3 minutes. It does take close to 3 minutes most of the time. You'll just have to play with it and see. And then you're going to take it out and put it in the cold water. And what that's going to do is kind of stop the cooking process so that the peaches don't continue to cook just from the heat of themselves and get mushy. And you just keep repeating that process until you have as many as you need peeled. Let's go get them peeled. First, we're going to freeze some, so let's get the bowl ready so that the peaches won't turn brown.
I'm going to start with 1/4 cup of honey. And the juice from 1 lemon. Half a lemon. We're going to start with half a lemon.
As we slice up the peaches and add it to this bowl, the liquid from the peaches, its own juices, will make a really nice syrup that we will freeze these in. Now let's get these out, get them dried off, and let's start to peeling. You can see it just starts to slip right off. Now, I believe this one is a little bit ripe, and it's not coming off as easy, and there's a few bad spots on it. So let's get a knife. I'm not peeling these, I'm just using the knife to help scrape it off. And you can see those few bad spots there. There weren't too many bad peaches in this bunch. And I'm just going to scoop out that bad spot and keep on peeling. And you can tell where it's a little ripe. Pieces of the fruit is coming off, and that happens if the fruit's a little too ripe. The rest of these weren't too bad. And I'm just gonna, as I go, I'm gonna slice them and put them in the honey and lemon, and like I said, it'll make its own juices just from the peaches, and the lemon again will keep it from turning brown. So here's one that's not as ripe, and you can see it's just peeling right off. It's much easier than standing and try to peel them. Plus, you don't waste as much as the fruit. You just get the peel off. I'm gonna cut them in half, pull the pit out, and then just slice them as thick as you think you'd like them. I don't like to make them too thin because I don't want them to disintegrate. I want them to stay nice and firm. And you can see this one looks great. Look at that. Look how pretty that flesh is. And this goes pretty fast. As I would peel, I'd stop and give them a stir and continue to peel, just to keep them coated so they wouldn't turn brown. And it's forming some really nice juice. I haven't added any more honey or any more lemon. And you can see here it's made a really good juice.
Now, I've already wrote what it is and the date, and I like to take a container to help hold that up, and I'm going to taste this real quick. That syrup with the juices, or that honey and lemon juices of the peach, has made a really nice syrup. Yum. Yum. And it tastes like peaches with just a hint of honey, and it doesn't just taste like sugar. It's wonderful. I just want this to be to where it'll be about 2 servings when we want a little something something after supper. Get some of the juice in there. And then lay this out here. And then I'm going to zip, almost completely closed, leave a little bit of air, or push all the air out, and then seal it. And then I can lay it flat in the freezer. Now let's get the rest of these done up and see if I want to do more.
I'm not filling these bags completely full so that I can lay them flat and they won't take up much space in the freezer, and then we'll can some to save freezer space.
That's a little light bag, but there's 4 of them. I added the lemon juice, and it was the juice of 1 lemon for both of these bowls. And that's just gonna keep everything from turning brown. That way I just did an assembly line. I got everything peeled, sliced, cut up, and now I'm gonna get to canning and making the salsa. Now I did hold back some fresh peaches because tomorrow we're going to a friend's for dinner, and I saw on Instagram, because I'm a sucker for all those recipes, and it was for fresh peaches and fresh whipped cream in a graham cracker crust, and it looked fabulous. So I'm gonna make that tomorrow and attach that to this video and see how that goes, because it looked yummy, 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 yummy. Did I say yummy? It looked yummy.
Future me here. That did not happen. This happened. I'll tell you about that in just a minute.
Now I've decided I'm only going to can a few. Let's get some of these done and we'll see, because I decided that I would really like to have more salsa than I would canned peaches. And I did some in the halves because look at that, isn't that glorious? But I thought that would just be so pretty. It's playing with my food and decorating with my food because it's so pretty. So I'm doing a few of these in the halves just for fun. And we're just layering those in there. There's a half. There's a half. then the rest of them, I am going to do, I just diced them up. Well, there's a half. But these are just the slices. We're gonna load this booger. I might need to eat that one. Oh, that's looking good. Okay. Hang on, let me check my salsa recipe and see how many peaches I'm gonna need. And we are getting some more peaches from South Carolina next week, so I might can up some more. Let me check. My salsa recipe calls for 8 cups of peaches, and this booger holds 8 cups. I'm going to go ahead and get the peaches I'll need for 1 batch of the peach salsa. And if it's delicious, which I'm sure it will be. Okay, that's a heavy 8 cups. And I think I will can several more of these, and I might freeze another bag for Rob. I want to make sure you have them pressed down. You don't have huge gaps in the jar. We're going to allow about 1 inch of headspace in this top part right here from the ring up. That's considered 1 inch. Just place a few more in here. Whoa! It decided for me. We're canning another one. And I'm eating this one. Okay, I'm enough here to probably do 1 more bag to freeze, and that will make my husband happy. Now, what I have here is the liquid, and I'm going to heat that up. And then I'm going to take a little bit of this liquid, leave just enough to can this. Now at this point, this has nothing in it except the juice from the peaches, lemon juice, and that's it. No honey, no water, nothing. I'm anticipating need a little more water for my juice, so I put some water in my bowl. I'm gonna heat this liquid up on the stove. Alrighty, I've got the hot liquid, and I don't have a lot of it because this is mainly just concentrated of the juices from the own liquid and then what I rinse the bowls out with.
We're water bath canning because this is a high acid food product. Peaches, fruit, most of your fruit is. And what I was saying, have the warm in the warm. I want the warm liquid going into the warm jars, going into the warm water, so that you don't have a drastic temperature change, so you don't have any cracking, and the canning process goes much smoother that way.
Oh, that's good. Well, it's not very sweet, but it's just really just pure peachy. Now I'm just putting this in here to knock the bubbles, any air bubbles that might be in there. You can see some popping. And then you'll be able to see we'll need to add a little more liquid.
I'm canning these in a Mennonite method that requires a shorter processing time. I'll link the videos where you can check that out and see if that is something you feel comfortable with.
Then we're just going to make sure with a little bit of vinegar. This is white vinegar on a rag, distilled white vinegar.
We just want to make sure that the rims are really clean and there's no fruit or debris on top, so that we get a good seal.
tight. All right, let's get it in the canner.
I will place these in the canner and process them for 5 minutes once it comes to a rolling boil. I also do not cover with an inch or two above the jars. I make sure that it is about an inch from the top of the jars. I will link the USDA recommended procedures in the description for those of you that aren't comfortable with this method. So while those process, I ran out to the garden and I picked some jalapeños for the salsa, and I picked a couple bell peppers also. But I did use some red store-bought peppers because I didn't have any red ones in the garden and I wanted the pretty colors in the salsa. So I'm back inside and they have processed for the full 5 minutes, and we're going to pull them out and let them cool. And every one of them sealed, and I should have fruit that is still a pretty firm consistency. Let's make some salsa. The recipe called for 6 cups of peaches. I used probably a heavy 8 cups to start with. It did not call for the red bell pepper. It called for 4 jalapenos. I did 2 jalapenos. I did half of a bell pepper, and I did a whole red pepper. And it probably came out to the right amount of pepper that the recipe called for. I'll list the actual recipe in the description. But this turned out really well, and I did deviate from the recipe. So I chopped up all the peppers, and the recipe called for about 1 1/4 cup of chopped onion, and that's probably about what I did. It called for 1 clove of garlic, and I used 2 really big cloves of garlic, and I grated it instead of chopped it. And the recipe called for half a cup, maybe 1/4 cup of cilantro, but I just took a big handful and chopped it, and it was delicious. It was a half a cup of vinegar. It called for 2 tablespoons of honey, and I came back and added more. It was probably a total of 4 tablespoons, give or take. And the recipe did not call for lime juice, but since I had more peaches than the recipe called for, I added probably about 2 to 3 tablespoons of lime. But I also like lime, but I wanted that extra acidity. And I also added some cumin, probably about a tablespoon. And then I just heated it to simmer and let it simmer for about 5 minutes till everything got really good and hot. Then I filled all of my jars. To about an inch of headspace. You could probably do about a 1/2 inch of headspace, but that's what I did. And I actually had just enough to do 6 jars. So it did cook down a little bit. And we're going to come along with a little more vinegar on a cloth and make sure the rims are really clean. And we're going to put the lids on. We're going to put the rings on, and I'm just going to screw these on fingertip tight. You don't crank it on, you just kind of gently tighten it. If you crank it on too tight, the lids will buckle. They won't be able to process properly, and they'll buckle. And I processed these in boiling water for 15 minutes per the recipe. And it turned out gorgeous and really delicious. I will be making more.
When I was preserving everything, I stopped, fixed supper, enjoyed the evening with my husband, and finished up the salsa that evening, so I didn't film anymore. So I wanted to come back the next morning and show you the salsa and do the pie. Well, as I showed you, that happened. My stove and oven tore up, so we had to take that out, and a new one should be here hopefully today. That's another thing that I love, having stuff like this on hand, because when everything gets crazy, it makes life a whole lot easier. Excuse me. Dunky, you going?
they'll want back in here in a second. Very good recipe. I will link the recipe in the description. However, I altered it quite a bit to where I wouldn't be able to say that it will taste just like that recipe. So I will write in the description what I did, because I will duplicate this. And I got more peaches, and I'm probably going to make more salsa. Like I said earlier, I am staying away from the refined sugars. I've found that if I cut out the sugar, that I don't have as much joint pain. My hands don't hurt, my body doesn't hurt, my skin looks better. I just feel better overall. I don't get as tired, and I can tell when I add it back in there, and trust me, I do. By having the fresh fruit on hand with no sugar, I figured what I would do instead of making up jams that pretty much need the sugar. Also, when you're cooking up jams, if you wanted to use honey, you're just cooking out all the good benefits that honey naturally has. So I was thinking that I could probably take this and get creative and probably share with you all what I come up with, because I really, really want to get sugar almost completely out of my diet, if at all possible, because I just feel so much better. Now, I will make things to have around and use sugar, but I'm trying really hard. So I may can some more peaches, and I will make another round of salsa. That's the plan, but I won't film that today. Right now, I need to take care of that. I really hope you got some value out of this, especially if you're trying to do things low sugar or no sugar. I thank you all so much for spending your time with me. My name is Loanna, and this is Little Bit of Homestead. Told you. Boys.